Hello, I am Nolan Wapenaar. I'm Head of Fixed Income at Anchor Capital. Each month we prepare for our investors, our clients, and actually any prospective investors, a research pack where we look at different aspects of the South African markets. Specifically this month we've looked at South African growth and what the drivers of growth have been in the past. Actually why South African growth has been so strong when one looks at all of the negative aspects that we read about in the press. Yet our growth engine has been strong enough to fight against all of these, and actually the economy continues to grow. So we've unpacked the question of what is driving this, and also tried to understand a little bit more about the economy. To start this off, we've actually looked at corruption, and we asked the question, is corruption the problem in South Africa? And interestingly, we benchmark South Africa against the BRICS. We have joined the BRICS, we see them as our peers. The World Economic Forum has recently published a very attractive map which shows that South Africa should be considered to be the least corrupt BRIC. In other words, if you look at us within our peer group, we're actually still certainly on the side of lower corruption and more ethical behavior. Similarly though, when you look at South Africa, we continue to perform very, very poorly in the Global Misery Index. For the last 3 years, we have actually ranked amongst the 10 most miserable countries in the world. What is driving this is our ridiculously high unemployment rate, and the fact that this has been a very stubborn unemployment rate, and we've got so many people, so much resources that isn't being utilized. Turning to South Africa itself, the way we've looked at the economy is to just look at some of the key statistics and graph them over 20 years and looking at trends that develop. So you can see how South Africa's business confidence was rising up until about 2013, and you can actually see then how the business world has become more pessimistic. Similarly, if I look at the South African Consumer Confidence Indicator, it was in decline earlier a decade ago, but it had been stable, if not rising slightly, over recent years, until 2014, when again our consumers turned pessimistic. So overall, what that really means is if you look at our leading indicator, it is pointing downwards. What that means is our growth is going to continue to slow down. Our economy is going to continue to feel pressure. But within all of that, it's not all bad news. So when we look at our economy, you can see that the growth has been declining, and as we said earlier, is likely to continue to decline. But we look at the different sectors within the economy. And South Africa's economy is very concentrated towards the services sector, particularly financial and estate services, the general government services, and the wholesale and retail services. So bearing that in mind, let's look at what these different sectors have been doing over recent years. Firstly, we look at the sectors that have been declining. If you want, these are the bad news sectors. Particularly, I want to draw attention to two of the sectors that are in decline. The first is electricity. Now, this is a 20-year graph which shows that for 20 years our electricity supply has not kept up with the growth of our economy. This is not something new. It is something that, hopefully the government is working on, but certainly it is something that has been holding us back. Similarly, we look at mining and quarrying, and the mining sector has declined. It's almost halved in size from 16% of our economy to approximately 8% currently, and that's a 20-year decline. It's no longer a particularly important sector from the GDP growth perspective, but the problem for South Africa is that this is the sector that generates our foreign currency, and without our foreign currency generation, the rand is going to continue to be under pressure. Turning to sectors that are maybe more neutral and maybe slightly more positive to talk about, the manufacturing sector has been growing, albeit slightly slower than our economy, whilst transport and storage and construction grew previously, but pretty much since the 2010 World Cup, they seem to have hit a ceiling and they've become stagnant sectors as well. Looking at the South African sectors that are good news and where we feel positive about the economy, there really are three of them. The first one, contrary to many popular beliefs, is the government sector, where the general government has declined in size of the economy over the last 20 years. In fact, I'm old enough to remember 48% tax rates, and the reason that we're only paying 42 today is because the government has reduced its size within our economy. Unfortunately, this is the tale of two halves, where most of the gains were had from 1994 through to about 2009. Since 2009, we have seen some slippage where the government has been growing again. But the real engines of growth, the real pillars of strength of the South African economy, have been the services sector, financial services, estate agents, etc. And this sector has grown both as a percentage of the economy and in real terms. It's the key pillar driving South Africa forward that has been growing against in defiance of all the negative things we read. And this is the good sector. This is what we feel positive about. Similarly, when we look at our retail sector, this has been the other key pillar of growth for South Africa. It's been growing consistently, albeit with some seasonality, over 20 years. And this is maybe more concerning for us because we know as the consumers come under pressure, as they will this year, certainly with people talking more interest rate hikes, we think that this is the sector that potentially could slow down, and any slowdown in this sector would put South Africa into a recession. So whilst we are quietly optimistic, we are certainly cognizant of some of the risks that South Africa faces. Thank you.